congratulating the minister and the government of Kazakhstan for the fantastic organization of the Expo and the Astana Economic Forum. I think the global buzz in Astana is amazing this year, and I know how hard the government has worked for this, so I'm very, very happy to be here and really congratulate the government on this. The other reason why I'm very glad to be here is because the topic we're going to discuss today is very dear to my heart. It's something that we've been working on for a while. And I believe it's a very important topic, both for Kazakhstan, but really it's very important for many, many countries around the world. And what is this topic? Well, it's fundamentally about understanding what does the structural change towards a green economy, which is by now pretty inevitable, what does it mean for the fiscal position of countries? What does it mean for government revenues? What does it mean for assets that the government owns? A lot has been said about private sector, the famous argument about stranded assets in the private sector. But de facto, the greatest majority of assets related to oil and gas, and in general, that may see their value affected by a climate change policy and the price of carbon, really are owned by governments around the world. Therefore, the implications of the creation of even an implicit carbon price, and in general, of measures that help us tackle the challenge of climate change and sort of capture the benefits and the opportunities of a green economy will have an impact on government revenues. And that's what we want to discuss today. The reason why we do it here is because the Kazakh government, and in particular the Ministry of Finance, and in particular Minister Sultanov, have been absolute pioneers of this area of work. They've been leading this. They are at the very edge of the research when it comes to fiscal implication of the green economy. And that's why we want to open this session asking Minister Sultanov about his experience on this topic and the work that the government is doing in this area. Thank you, Minister.
Матья Романе, уважаемые участники сегодняшней сессии, позвольте воспользоваться случаем и благодарить всех присутствующих здесь за участие в форуме и за поддержку продвижения идеи Казахстана. Я очень рад присутствию столь уважаемой публики и участников форума, что говорит о вашей поддержке и понимании значимости данных мероприятий и идей как для всего мира, так и для Казахстана в частности. Отдельную благодарность я бы хотел выразить Европейскому банку реконструкции и развития за неоценимый вклад в развитие экономики нашей страны. За годы независимости Казахстан совместно с EBRD реализовал и продолжает реализовывать значимые масштабные проекты, такие как исследования в области зеленого фондирования, модернизация хранилищ природного газа и распределительной сети, проекты по модернизации систем водоснабжения. И буквально недавно, несколько недель назад, мы подписали соглашение под государственной гарантией. Реализовываться будет проект по ирригации южных областей Казахстана. Это тоже весомый вклад в реализацию идей, которые мы сегодня обсуждаем на этой сессии. Но важно отметить, что помимо финансирования конкретных проектов, здесь мы не только обеспечиваем инвестиции, но и, конечно же, более важно – это трансфер технологий и знаний в областях, наиболее значимых для Казахстана. Как вы знаете, проходящий форум приурочен к международной выставке Экспо-2017 под названием «Энергия будущего». Это является актуальной темой для современного мира, и мы считаем, что идеи, представленные на данной платформе, будут полезны не только для Казахстана, но и для развития глобальной экономики в целом. Для начала Разрешите мне кратко описать казахстанский путь к зеленой экономике, который начался еще задолго до принятия концепции перехода Казахстана к зеленой экономике. В период повсеместных испытаний ядерного оружия на территории Казахстана действовал Семипалатинский полигон, на котором за 40 лет, в период с 49 по 89 годы прошлого столетия, было проведено 473 ядерных испытания. Суммарная мощность ядерных зарядов на полигоне в 2500 раз превышает мощность бомбы, взорванной над Хиросимой. Это трагическая страница в нашей истории, но о ней мы всегда должны помнить. Так вот, одним из первых шагов, как вы знаете, именно шагов в улучшении климатических условий является антиядерное движение Невада-Семипалатинское, организованное тогда в 89-м еще далеком году общественным деятелем Олжасом Сулейменовым. Основная цель – вырастить поколение, нетерпимое к оружию массового поражения. И зародившееся в Казахстане движение стало основой для сокращения проводимых ядерных испытаний по всему миру. За 28 лет после закрытия Семипалатинского полигона замолчали 4 крупнейших полигона планеты – в Неваде, Новой Земле, Лопноре и Мурура. Это, я думаю, ощутимые плоды в области ядерного разоружения. Следующим шагом стало участие Казахстана во Всемирной конференции ООН по окружающей среде и развитию, прошедшей в Рио-де-Жанейро в 1992 году, и в принятии ее, активного участия в принятии ее основных документов. И инициативы нашего президента направлены на спасение Аральского моря, сохранение биоразнообразия Каспия, имеют глобальное значение для устойчивого развития и всеобщей безопасности. По прошествии 20 лет уже на конференции Рио плюс 20 президентом Назарбаевым представлена идея создания зеленого моста, предлагающая конкретные механизмы для перехода к зеленой экономике. В 2013 году, как вы знаете, принята концепция по переходу к зеленой экономике, где определены конкретные цели и показатели, которые должны повлечь значительные изменения траектории развития экономики нашей страны. В частности, концепция направлена на достижение таких целей, как достижение 3% доли альтернативной возобновляемой электроэнергетики в 2020 году, сегодня это всего лишь 1%, повышение производительности ресурсов, достижение до 20% доли газовых электростанций в выработке электроэнергии с нынешних 18,7%, модернизация существующей и развитие новой инфраструктуры, достижение до 40% доли переработанных отходов, сегодня это всего лишь 2,6%. Ну и в целом, конечно же, повышение благополучия населения и качества окружающей среды через рентабельные пути смягчения давления на окружающую среду и повышение национальной безопасности, в том числе водной безопасности. Инструментами достижения этих целей по секторам экономики становятся принятые уже и реализуемые в Казахстане ряд государственных и отраслевых программ. Во-первых, это государственная программа индустриально-инновационного развития с объемом финансирования порядка 1 триллиона тенге. Программа по водному обеспечению Ахпулах до 2020 года, это 1,3 триллиона тенге. Большая программа развития регионов Казахстана, тоже до 2020 года, инвестиции 1,8 триллионов тенге. Программа развития, конечно же, агропромышленного комплекса, более 2 триллионов тенге. Все это подтверждает тот факт, что Казахстан намерен ежегодно инвестировать в целом в зеленую модернизацию средств в объеме приблизительно 2% к ВВП. Ну и, наконец, важным этапом стало подписание в прошлом году Парижского соглашения по климату, согласно которому Казахстан обязался снизить выбросы парниковых газов на 15% до уровня 90-го года. Несмотря на эти значительные шаги, могу с уверенностью констатировать, что Казахстаном прочувствована и принята философия зеленой экономики. Вместе с тем, несмотря на такие достижения, перед нами и перед всем миром, конечно же, стоят новые вызовы. Всем нам известно, что сегодня мировая экономика достигла пределы своего развития на основе использования углеводородной энергии как основного источника. Затянувшийся экономический кризис характеризуется исчерпанием возможностей существующей глобальной энергетики, а также глубокими переменами, вызванными появлением новых технологий, постоянно растущим спросом на энергетические товары и экономической неопределенностью в целом. Эти вызовы диктуют необходимость новой, эффективной, стабильной модели экономической системы. И в настоящее время экономика Казахстана во многом основана на добыче природных ресурсов, среди которых ведущую роль играет добыча энергетических ресурсов. В условиях данных вызовов новая экономическая стратегия государства должна быть направлена на уход от экспортно-сырьевой модели и переход к зеленой экономике для формирования устойчивого развития и соответствия и создания условий для реализации главной нашей цели, обозначенной в стратегии до 2050 года, это вступление в 30 наиболее развитых государств. И, как сказал глава нашего государства, природа — это не то, что мы получили в наследство от предков, а то, что мы взяли в долг у своих потомков. Важным шагом в реализацию новой экономической стратегии в области государственных финансов стало создание в 2000 году Национального фонда. Данная мера стала важным инструментом поддержания макроэкономической стабильности в стране и ухода от так называемой голландской болезни. В то же время мы, накапливая ресурсы, второе название Национального фонда — это фонд будущих поколений. В прошлом году была пересмотрена концепция формирования и использования средств Национального фонда. К своему счастью, вот с 2000 года нам удалось значительные ресурсы накопить к тем волнам кризиса, которые мы впервые столкнулись в 2008 году, вот 3 последних года, и мы дважды испытали средства Национального фонда, использовали его для того, чтобы профинансировать все наши антикризисные программы. И так же, как в 2009 году, нам удалось плавно приземлить рост экономики с предыдущего бурного роста до 1% роста. И благодаря своевременно принятым мерам, благодаря нашим стратегическим ресурсам, запасам, и нам удалось обеспечить, что экономика, в отличие от наших соседей, в отличие в целом от множества примеров мировой экономики, не снизить нашу экономику, а продолжать поступательный рост. Более того, благодаря запуску таких важных программ, как форсированная индустриализация и программы инфраструктурного развития, нам удалось не только сохранить рабочие места, но и сократить безработицу в эти кризисные явления. И здесь мы решали две задачи. И оперативную задачу как антикризисная программа, в то же время за счет создания новой инфраструктуры настраивали экономику на новые подходы для следующих фаз экономического роста. А для того, чтобы, еще раз повторюсь, для того, чтобы достичь цели вступления в 30 наиболее развитых государств, нам важно обеспечивать рост экономики выше, чем среднемировые. Поэтому, понимая, что в период низких цен это не разовое кризисное явление, а это, скорее всего, уже новая парадигма на десятилетия, нам нужно понимать, что необходимо перестраивать всю свою экономическую политику, в том числе фискальную политику. Поэтому мы ужесточаем свои фискальные правила, понимая, что дважды мы использовали свои резервы в виде национального фонда. Это бесконечно невозможно, это следовать таким подходам. было принято решение принять новую концепцию бюджетной политики, новую концепцию использования средств национального фонда, и с нынешних 2 триллионов 880 миллиардов в течение 3 последующих лет мы будем снижать гарантированный трансфер из национального фонда в республиканский бюджет на 880 миллиардов тенге. Это больше, чем 25%. Это достаточно болезненно. И при этом второй резерв, который у нас есть, это низкий объем долга. В отличие от многих других стран, у нас долг порядка 20%, но есть и другие ковенанты, это обслуживание долга, соотношение обслуживания долга к доходам, и вследствие вынужденной коррекции курса национальной валюты и в связи с переходом на свободно плавающий обменный курс в 2015 году эти ковенанты несколько пошатнулись, но в целом с реализацией наших задач по стабилизации макроэкономической ситуации в экономике, снижением стоимости денег, сбитием инфляции и так далее, мы эти позиции сохраним. Поэтому, чтобы не прожигать в короткий период вот этих 2 резерва, наши накопленные нефтяные доходы и лимит долговой нагрузки, мы приняли такие жесткие фискальные правила. В течение 3 лет, помимо снижения гарантированного трансферта из национального фонда, будет снижаться и дефицит бюджета до 1% к ВВП. Но, тем не менее, в расходной части мы должны обеспечивать влияние на поступательный рост и сохранив все социальные обязательства. Социальный бюджет уже превышает половину нашего бюджета, поэтому здесь правительство Казахстана, перед правительством Казахстана стоят серьезные вызовы. Вот. Одно из них – это снижение за все эти годы доходов бюджета до нынешних. Мы собираем сегодня в консолидированный бюджет 15,6%, ну приблизительно 16%. Поставили мы перед собой амбициозную задачу довести до 25% без повышения ставок налогов, только за счет улучшения администрирования и создания условий для бизнеса работать более комфортно, но и более комфортно выполнять свои налоговые обязательства. Такие задачи перед нами стоят, это тоже элементы как устойчивого развития, так и внедрения принципов зеленых финансов. Для того, чтобы в расходах иметь, вернее, через расходная часть она будет, естественно, реагировать на такие строгие фискальные правила, поэтому перед нами стоит задача по внедрению различных инструментов государственного, частного партнерства, сервисной модели и так далее. И здесь роль международных финансовых институтов, я думаю, что будет тоже очень большой. В целом, подводя итог, хочу отметить, что для перехода к зеленой экономике Казахстана, как и любой другой страны, понадобится определенный период трансформации и модернизации, структурно-технологических изменений, формирования новых экономических моделей. И в этот переходный период основным локомотивом в любом случае остается энергетический сектор, поэтому важной задачей является снижение издержек такого перехода и радикальное повышение эффективности использования природных ресурсов. Недра Казахстана обладает огромными природными богатствами, но при этом Казахстан также обладает и огромными возобновляемыми ресурсами для перехода к зеленой экономике. Это солнце, ветер, вода. И мы будем стараться использовать эффективно использовать данные нам природой эти конкурентные преимущества. Разрешите еще раз поблагодарить вас за участие на данной сессии. Как я уже отмечал в начале своего выступления, в Казахстане проходит масштабное мероприятие Экспо-2017 под названием «Энергия будущего». И то, что данная сессия посвящена именно вопросам, схожим с тематикой Экспо, я думаю, что это очень важно и неспроста, и в нынешних реалиях является весьма актуальной. Желаю всем плодотворной и интересной дискуссии. Благодарю за внимание.
The Kazakhstan commitment to environment first and then climate later, and this serves as a good reminder. Only 10 years ago, if you think about it, only 10 years ago, it would have been unthinkable that we would be where we are in terms of the cost of renewable energy, in terms of the momentum around the green economy. And it is actually, Kazakhstan is a very good example of a country that has been at the forefront of this transformation. I think without the sort of the drive of the Kazakh government, without the drive of EU minister, I don't think we would be where we are now. And I think there's in this moment of sort of global realignment, it's so important to have a country like Kazakhstan keep steady on the course of the green economy and explaining to the world why this makes sense to them. So thank you very much. I thought that was really enlightening and recommitted us all to this very important agenda. Now, what's going to happen over the next hour or so? We're going to have a number of interventions from a number of speakers that I'll introduce as they speak to you. But I would also like the audience to participate as much as possible. So please, by all means, if you have a question, put up your hand. I'll try to have the speakers speak first. We'll keep it brief. But if you have a burning question, you really want to ask somebody, just put up your hand, and of course we'll have you come in. But perhaps let's start by hearing a little bit about some of the work that has gone in preparation of this event that is ongoing. It's a collaboration between the Ministry of Finance, EBRD, PwC is helping us on that. So I'm going to turn now to Amal Larhlid. Amal is with PwC. She's the director in PwC, looking after, in particular, global tax and governance. She has worked on public financial management and public sector governance for a long time. Before being at PwC, she was at the OECD. Before that, with the Moroccan Ministry of Finance. In fact, she was an inspector checking on public expenditure in the health and education sectors, I think, in Morocco, which is great. So, Amal, as a former inspector on finance, tell us, what have you found in terms of the challenges that Kazakhstan will face in terms of its fiscal position, moving to a green economy, but also the potential opportunities and what it needs to be done to get there?
Thank you very much, Mattia. I'm really delighted to be here, and if you allow me, I will not be putting my inspector hat today. So I will be more looking at fiscal implications more generally. And as His Excellency said, Kazakhstan already embarked in a lot of reforms, is conscious of the challenges. But here we would like just to talk about the study that we are doing with you on assessing the fiscal implications of the green economy transition for Kazakhstan. So, I mean, as we know, this is a very complex matter, and it sits at the nexus of different areas and disciplines, including economic policy, fiscal policy, climate change and sustainability. So it's not an easy task. And the approach actually that we are adopting in this project, and I'm just saying if we can move to to the next slide, actually talking about, so this is really just to present the projects in a nutshell. We will be focusing on material sectors for Kazakhstan, mainly oil and gas, and looking at what are the fiscal policy and budget reform measures that Kazakhstan could put in place to face the challenges of the green economy transition. So briefly on the methodology, we are constructing scenarios to look at what are the implications under each of the scenarios that the international community is putting in there, especially the Rio scenarios. We are identifying the impact on material sectors, analyzing the fiscal implications, and coming up with a number of recommendations and policy options for Kazakhstan. So if we move to the next slide, just very briefly, this is actually just historically to look at the oil and gas sectors and how they are actually a key driver of economic growth and public finances, especially historically. So the chart on the left-hand side looks at the production of oil as a key driver of economic growth in Kazakhstan. And on the right-hand side chart, you can see the reliance on hydrocarbon extraction. And the IMF analysis shows that the government's revenues from the oil sector is actually a very important driver of public finances. So if we take them together, if we take these two charts together, it shows primarily that driven by oil, economic growth is increasingly being driven by the non-oil economy. So if you can see, the non-oil economy is growing, so this is really a good path that Kazakhstan should build on. However, the proportion of oil revenues is still an important proportion in public finances. It's at the level of 50% of the public revenue, so it is really important to move away from the uncertainty that it creates. Just a quick word on the drivers on the next slide. The drivers for the green economy transition. And here very quickly, I mean, we have at the international level, the regional level, and the national level. His Excellency already talked about the SDGs, for example, and the Paris Agreement. The SDGs, as you all know, 13 of the 17 SDGs are linked to the natural environment and climate change and sustainability. So they are a big driver for the change. The Paris Agreement, of course, but there is also the technology changes and the use of renewables. That is something that we need to take into account. At the regional level, there are other factors like regional development, trade and competition, and we understand that Kazakhstan has an objective to be a bridge between Asia and Europe, so there is a momentum also to play a leading role at the regional level. And at the national level, of course, I mean, I will not go into the detail of that because His Excellency really explained it, but just, I mean, 3 of the documents, the 100 concrete steps, the green economy concept, and the strategy 2050. So these two slides are, these two charts are looking at oil and gas prices, and the next one is looking briefly at the production. Again, according to international scenarios, the prices will increase, but only to a certain point. And if you look at the third scenario, which is the 40-50 scenario, there will be a drop in the prices, which will have actually an impact on finances, of course. I mean, gas is a different story, which is on the right-hand side, because prices are set to grow. Again, following international forecasts, mainly because gas is considered as a bridge fuel. The difference between oil and gas is significant.
Amal, just to make sure that people follow this, many of you will be familiar with it, but the 3 scenarios are built around the world energy outlook scenarios, or how the world is going to react to the challenge of climate, and it assumes 3 levels of ambition, if you want, with the scenario 450 being the most ambitious scenario on climate action from the world.
Thank you very much, Mattia. Yeah, I assume that I'm talking to an expert audience, but thank you for the clarification. So on the next slide, we have the production, and again, I mean the production will be different for oil and gas. Kazakhstan has very important reserves, but of course, I mean, as we all know, the reserves are not unlimited, so which creates a lot of uncertainty actually around the revenues that these sectors will generate. So how would all of that impact the Republic budget? And I think that, I mean, I try to go very quickly over the outlook, but this is really where the interaction between taxes, revenues, expenditures, and other factors on the budget of the Republic. So I mean, in the 2 yellow boxes, you have the revenues. So either from PSAs or royalties and taxes. You have also the subsidy side, which is on the public financial management side and the spending. You have the levels of dividends distributed from Samar Kazina, which can be also affected by the oil revenues, whether they are up or down. And there is the National Fund of the Republic of Kazakhstan, which is also an important tool that can be used depending on the objective. Is it economic stabilization or is it long-term savings for the nation? So we talked a little bit about the challenges. I think that we want also to talk about the opportunities. So we touched on all the challenges, and maybe just a point on debt, which was not mentioned in the slide before. His Excellency also talked about it. I mean, the more you borrow, the more pressure you put on your finances, and the more it becomes expensive actually to borrow. So it's really important. But there are opportunities for tax reform, for consumer side gains as well, whether we want to tax the consumer side gain or to allow consumers to use the gain, which can create also consumption. And there is an opportunity for subsidy reform when oil prices are low. So these are some of the options for Kazakhstan to address the risks on fiscal policy. I mean, again, revenue raising, steering away from oil revenues and looking at a wider tax base and other industries that could raise revenue. Reforming the ownership structures, which is very important, and the Republic of Kazakhstan already embarked in the people IPO and privatization programs, and I think that this could decrease the exposure of the balance sheet of the state. Sovereign wealth fund reform is also very important, and this was mentioned by His Excellency already. Investment is an interesting one because investment could really be used as a tool to tackle some of the uncertainties. And this is done actually in some countries, and I will talk about that in a minute. And subsidy reform is really key. So these are some of the fiscal policy options. On the budget process side, there are also some very interesting options at each stage of the budget. So at the budget planning, for example, to be able to have long-term forecasts to include the fiscal risks, including climate change risks, are very important. Budget execution, having a medium-term expenditure framework, for example, is really important to be able to plan in the mid and long term. Accounting and reporting, I mean, you need to know what are the risks, and I know that Kazakhstan is working with the OECD, for example, to include some climate change and green growth indicators in the budget. And external oversight, I think that this can help at the same time to inform a different set of stakeholders, including parliaments, the wider public, and civil society, but it can also help improving the ranking of Kazakhstan in some international indicators like the Open Budget Index, which helps building trust and attracting FDI. So it's all a virtuous circle that could be created. So just to bring the international dimension, this is not an issue that Kazakhstan is facing alone. A lot of other countries around the world are facing it. And here, just very briefly, some examples of reforms and measures that other countries are using. Norway, as you know, I mean, has a very strong and sustainable sovereign wealth fund. I mean, they have the biggest or the largest sovereign wealth pension fund in the world. They use also a very efficient tax system. Saudi Arabia is investing, for example, billions in Uber. It is at the same time part of the broader investment strategy, but it's also to act as a natural hedge for fiscal risks. Morocco embarked recently in a very aggressive and strong subsidy reform, and I mean it was politically challenging, but this is something that they have done, and there are some lessons to be learned there. And finally, in Indonesia, they put together a climate finance tracking and a reporting system, which is also something that could be of inspiration for others. I know that I have probably used the time I have, so I will stop it here.
Amal, thank you very, very much. It was a... try and press you.
Oh, sorry.
So this will go green and it's a bit what. So yes, thanks. It was a brilliant overview of an obviously very comprehensive and deep piece of work. We're really proud that with the Ministry of Finance, the European Bank for Reconstruction and Development has worked with you on this, because I think it's actually quite pioneering. I don't think there's many pieces of work like this. There's a couple of things that I remember from the numbers you gave us. 50% of the revenues of these countries depend on oil and gas, and that immediately takes home how material this issue is for a country like Kazakhstan. I suspect it has material for several other countries. It's good that Kazakhstan is looking at this earlier than others. So that's the first number that stuck in my mind. The other thing that stuck in my mind is this issue about risks, but also opportunities. This is really about rethinking about your tax system in a world in which energy looks different. And this fits so well into the theme of the Expo Astana, about the future of energy. The future of energy being different from what we are used to, moving away from fossil fuel, means that you've got to manage your budget differently. You've got to think about your taxes differently. I think we'll have soon back on the table issues of whether it's appropriate to tax revenue as opposed to resource use, whether it's appropriate to tax profits as opposed to inefficiencies. So these are all topics that will come back up, and I think we opened quite an interesting Pandora box of issues, but that needs to be opened, needs to be tackled. So thank you for this. I am going to keep my speakers on their toes, because I had given an order, but I want to change it. I want to bring in Katulis. The reason why I want to bring you in, Katulis, is because Katulis Helmer, who's a partner at the consulting firm Novid, is also an expert of Kazakhstan, has looked and has been an advisor to the Prime Minister on the clean economy. So, Katulis, how does that sound to you in your experience of Kazakhstan, on the advice that you've given, but also on the trajectory for Kazakhstan?
And thank you to the EBRD for organizing this very topical and interesting event, and for your question. A little bit of context, which is important, because as I was listening to the minister, it made me think of something that Winston Churchill once said. He said that history will be kind to me because I intend to write it. And this, I think, encapsulates what we're talking about, the green economy in Kazakhstan. We heard the minister lay out a very ambitious vision for the future. Transition to a low-carbon economy. So Kazakhstan is attempting to write its own future. Why is it doing this? Well, obviously, to reduce the dependence on fossil fuels. That's not a guarantor of long-term prosperity. This is something we talked about in the Prime Minister's office for a long period of time. And the targets and the vision that the green economy concept that's been laid out reflect that underlying principle. But why? This is not an article of faith. This is a market reality. Renewables, as I think everyone in the room is aware, there's been tremendous momentum. They're cheaper now than conventional sources of power, and we've seen even in the last 12 months prices that were unimaginable 4 or 5 years ago. Less than 3 cents per kilowatt hour in Mexico, in Chile. 3 cents for onshore wind. Even in the UK, earlier this year, in April I think it was, they switched off all of their coal for 24 hours. First time this has happened since the first industrial revolution. So this is the direction of travel. It's not an article of faith. It's a market reality. At the same time, this is not a climate message. This is not just about addressing environmental risks, although that's important. Getting ready for climate change. We're already seeing droughts in Kazakhstan, and this will have a long-term impact. But this is an economic modernization story as well. Replacing outdated, inefficient technology, upgrading, modernizing municipal infrastructure, and very importantly, reducing the high level of energy intensity and greenhouse gas emission intensity that the economy currently suffers. This is about economic competitiveness. So I would say, coming back to the Minister and coming back to the work we did in the PM's office, that achieving Kazakhstan's long-term economic goals, this is fundamentally intertwined with sustainable development. So I'll stop there.
Thank you very much. Very important point you made about this being really about economic modernization. It's about choosing your own future, and I agree that that's the case. And somehow what we saw here, good presentation Amal gave us, is that the consequences of this new future that we're drawing for ourselves are quite widespread, and we need to think about them carefully for the sustainability of the economy, which brings me to the importance of the governance element of the story. The importance of ensuring that the institutions that work at the real match between the transformation of the green economy and the management of the public good, really, and in this case of the public finances, work well together. So I'd like to turn to Rolf. Rolf Alter is at OECD. He's the Director of Public Governance for the OECD. So Rolf, tell us a little bit about what you think are the principles of governance that will help us along this complex pathway.
Thank you very much. Following such a rich presentation on where the issues are and where the problems lie, I could only say yes, it's a good timing, Mathieu, for bringing in who will all do that. Because I think the key question here is one of competence for the sector, and it's one of competence for structural change. But these are not elements that are unfamiliar to economies. They are actually well tested by now. Structural change, in this case, due to energy changes. What would we say about the institutions that can help Kazakhstan to do this? I'd say, first of all, it will be always critical to have a vision for where the country wants to go. And I think the National Development Plan that exists today is something of an agreement to think in those long-term barriers of options, of opportunities to get to the next stage, this very ambitious goal to be among the 30. To make plans requires the buy-in of stakeholders. And I think it is the key that stakeholders not just are those that are having the material competence, you will also make sure that the private sector is part of this decision and this planning as much as citizens. Participation is the participation in the future of the citizens of Kazakhstan. So therefore, I would assume that this is an important part of the energy that is invested in making these steps, mobilizing stakeholders. Of course, there's also the academic sector and so on. But in the end, I think we have to ask ourselves what citizens actually expect and what will they want to see. The second point that I would like to make is, you know that the OECD is here very much engaged with the country to ensure that the institutional frameworks are up to what they need to be for such an ambitious program. So I would very much argue that to make it happen, you need the competence in the public sector. Investing in the competence of the public sector means you have assurance that these transition can actually be carried out. But then there's a third point. If you let me just go to the fiscal side of it. Basically, we have three concepts that would determine what you can do on the fiscal front, because, of course, all those changes to take into account means that you have some sort of assumptions, hypotheses about how these factors move. So I think we come back to some very straightforward concept first. What is the fiscal rule that will apply? You spoke about, Amal spoke about Norway. You see, it's one of the probably worldwide best managed sovereign wealth funds due to their income from the oil sector. They have set up extremely rigid rules for what you can do with this fund, but also who manages it. And I would say accumulating $900 billion in Norway, a country of 6 million people, is quite an achievement. So, as always in the OECD, maybe not so bad to check what they have done to get it right. At least for the time being, they got it very right. The second point is, do we have an assessment, what we call in the language of the budget people, long-term sustainability of the finances? So you have to have an accounting that allows you to make assessments about long-term sustainability. And that, of course, implies that you have to have an idea of how fast the transition will work. And the third thing is also a very well-known concept, is the fiscal risks. How do you really take hold of these risks? And I have to say, in many countries of the OECD, some of the risks are taken into account, such as expenditure for pensions, because aging is a very long-term process, but needs a lot of preparatory work. Others are taking a few more of these, and only two, so far I know, that are making actually a risk assessment for the economy as a whole. And I do believe that's a very sensible way to go about it today. Making an assessment of the risks with which you have to first count, and second, think about what the responses can be. And that there are many of these responses, I think Amal made it very clear. It's on the supply side, it's on, of course, the demand side, and it is certainly a question of sort of risks and opportunities. So, to conclude, I don't think that one should talk about the transition as an isolated process where the expertise will generate the responses. Governance will require a bit broader participation and the use of some of the very well-tested instrument of budgeting with, of course, a few references to those countries that just either have done it or are on the way to do it.
Well, thank you very much for this very strong principles of what needs to be done. I like the point you made about capacity in the ministries, in the public sector to manage this. I think this is of great importance. Now, I'm about to turn to the audience, but before I do that, let me turn to Evgeny. Now, Evgeny, you run a very important bit of the Eurasian Development Bank, the Center for Integration, which is, if you want, the research component of the Eurasian Economic Bank. So the question for you is really about the experience outside Kazakhstan in other Central Asian countries, about green transformation, about if you want, their ability to ensure fiscal sustainability in the long term. What's your experience?
Here for inviting me to speak. Well, the biggest challenge is obviously for us the falling oil and gas revenues. We've experienced a drastic fall a couple of years ago.
Be close to the microphone.
Okay.
Sorry, it's a microphone.
We've experienced a drastic fall in oil prices and revenues a couple of years ago. And now our countries are learning rather successfully how to live with $40 per barrel. But the nightmare scenario is, of course, how we would live with $20 per barrel. This issue is applicable not only to Indonesia, Morocco, and Norway. It's also very directly applicable to Kazakhstan's neighbors, Russia and Azerbaijan, and through multiple transmission channels, trade, investment, bilateral assistance, remittances. It also affects really hard our smaller neighbors, such as Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan, Armenia, and Belarus. When Russia and Kazakhstan sneeze, Kyrgyzstan and Tajikistan get a serious fever through the drastic fall in labor remittances. So this is the problem for the whole region. What are the solutions? Well, some solutions have been voiced today, and that's a huge issue. I would like to address this from the macroeconomic perspective. Well, first of all, the conservative fiscal and monetary policy is certainly not a panacea, but it's a very useful response to this challenge. The 2014-15 crisis has actually demonstrated distinctly that for such countries as Kazakhstan and Russia, the free float of national currencies is the optimal macroeconomic policy. The free float in the mid-term and long-term effectively lowers the volatility of national currencies, and that's exactly what we see now in 2016 and 17. The volatility of Kazakh tenge and Russian ruble relative to the fluctuation of oil prices has gone down substantially. The second thing is a conservative fiscal policy. To minimize risks from fluctuating energy prices, Kazakhstan implemented a relatively conservative fiscal policy with implications for spending oil and gas revenues. Russia and Kazakhstan employ different options, different versions of a budget rule, but it's still a relatively strict budget rule, and Minister Sultanov today provided you with the official assessment on the national goal to lower the deficit of the budget and to lower transfers from the national fund. This story we have a comparable story going on now in Russia. The fiscal policy gets conservative, and we learn, I think successfully, how to live with $40 per barrel. On the microeconomic perspective, I'd like to add maybe an unpopular opinion. Kazakhstan receives approximately 60% of its electric power and heat from coal power generation. And we don't think it's going to disappear in 10 years. It will certainly decline in 30 years perspective, but it will not go away in 10 years. But we have to live now. We have to support this decaying power station. And I think it's a good idea for the IFIs to finance improving the ecological content and to finance the modernization of coal-powered generation in Kazakhstan. Our policy, EDB policy, actually allows us to invest the modernization of coal power station, and we think this policy takes correctly into consideration the nature of energy balance in Kazakhstan. The final point is more technical. We maintain a huge database of cross-country, cross-border foreign direct investments in Eurasia. So all mutual investment in the CIS, all outgoing investments, and all incoming investments from the countries in Eurasia. All in all, we have approximately 2,100 projects in this database with the value of approximately $200 billion. Out of these 2,100 projects of cross-border FDIs in Eurasia, only 7 are relevant to the issue of green economy. These are 5 projects of Russia's state-owned enterprises investing into hydropower generation in Georgia, Armenia, Kyrgyzstan, and Tajikistan. 1 Austrian investment by Strabag Umweltanlagen into a waste processing plant in in Brest. And the final one, Iranian investment into the construction of Santudatu hydroelectric power station in Tajikistan. But that's about all. I think also supporting cross-border investment into green energy, green economy in general, should be within the mandate of the IFIs in Eurasia because, well, simply because green economy is so technologically intensive. Okay.
Great. Well, thank you very much for your remarks. Very interesting, the perspective you bring in, and also sort of the call for speeding up some of the transformations that we're seeing in the region. I think it's important. I'm going to open the floor to questions. Before I do that, I just want to stress how I found some of the most interesting parts of the conversation, in my view, related to looking forward. This is, yes, about learning how to live with $40 a barrel, maybe less, but it's not simply how to live with a lower oil price. It's about how the transformation of the economy that we're seeing can help us through that, can help us by creating a different way of raising, for instance, taxes and revenues, can help us sort of sustainably live through a world in which fossil fuels play a lesser role in the economy and revenue. That to me is the most exciting part of the conversation I heard. But let me see if there's anybody in the audience that would like to add something or ask a question. I think there's microphones around. Please, by all means. Yes, sir. Is there a microphone available? Sorry there. Thank you.
Даже не знаю, какому из спикеров задать свой вопрос, но большое спасибо за выступление. Я хотел бы спросить, поделитесь, пожалуйста, опытом, когда лучше провести трансформацию, заменить старое сразу на новое, когда в каких случаях провести модернизацию и использовать переходный период. Больше меня интересует это в фискальной политике. Спасибо.
Okay, I tried to interpret your question. I must say the translation was not that clear on the question. So I understand that your question is, at what pace do we want to see a transformation from, if you want, an old energy system to a new energy system, and what are the consequences on the fiscal side? Sorry, let's have another go.
Я прошу поделиться положительным либо отрицательным опытом, когда проводились реформы, то есть, скажем, трансформация, одномоментная замена старого на новое, либо же когда это лучше провести модернизацию, поэтапную замены старого на новое. То есть, когда используется переходный период, в каких случаях больше рисков, в каких случаях меньше. То есть, меня это интересует именно в фискальной политике. Спасибо.
Okay, thank you. That's clearer now. So do we want to see a sort of very sudden, very quick transition or a more gradual transition? What are the experiences around this too? Why don't I perhaps, Rolf, you're well placed from the OECD to perhaps share some of the experience in different countries that have done it more gradually, countries that have not. What do you think?
Let me perhaps simply speak about one of our countries that is in a similar position in terms of its budget dependency on income from oil. And I have to say that country is Mexico. which has a very, very large share of its budget being financed by oil revenues. It's a state-owned company. And the question was, how do we adjust to it? But you know, if I may say, I really don't quite like this idea to say, can we survive with 40 or with 35? I think that's something that needs to be answered with yes, because you won't die. You don't want to disappear. So yes, you can. But the question is, what do you do with that, and what type of space you will be liberating by making this transition faster so that the benefits can be reaped. The Mexicans took a constitutional reform to change the status of their oil company. The so-called resources that were being owned by the country, they're still there. But now foreigners can come in and bring in their knowledge to bear, their technology to bear when it comes to both investment and exploitation, and of course part of the market. Has that been an easy process? By no means. Has it been radical? I think would testify to the fact it's a very radical approach. But it's the pressure that we're there. And a bit, I have the feeling that it is this old saying, a crisis makes you move in any event. So the choices that you are referring to, do we slowly, do we fast, do we more with the support of the government, do we more open up the markets? That's, I think, are choices that have each government to make. And I would say, come back to that, if you can unify your allies behind one of these approaches, it will work for you. But to think that the choices are without pain, I just don't think that that's a very relevant option.
Yeah, so if I can concentrate just a little bit on the energy sector. And looking at the United States. There are a few states in the United States that have moved very quickly to transform their energy sector. Kansas, Iowa, Texas, all Republican states, by the way, are now 25% and above renewables. This has happened in 10 years or less. But this has been a market-driven. This is a market-driven event. When the government is thinking about the transition from conventional to other alternative sources of energy, the considerations are obviously the high upfront capital costs, because the benefits of transitioning to a lower cost renewable regime are only recouped over time, over a long period, 25-year, 30-year PPAs. So when you're investing significant capital expenditure upfront, obviously the low prevailing interest rate environment that we're in now is favorable. But I come back to a point that I made originally, that this is the market that determines the speed of transformation to a large extent.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Anybody else wants to come in on this particular question? Minister.
Я хотел бы, если можно, я одно наблюдение хотел сказать из сегодняшних обсуждений. Мы все говорим о том, что надо сделать, да, для того, чтобы приспособить все наши планы, все наши правила под новые меняющиеся условия, климатические условия, изменения поведения человечества к новым условиям. Да. Я бы хотел затронуть одну грань, что мы не говорили о том, что же поможет нам это делать. И вот слова Рольфа и Катуласа о том, что что-то когда-то представлялось фантастичным, оно может оказаться здесь и сейчас, вот на примере однодневного отключения, да, английских электростанций, да, или то, что жизнь нас все равно догонит, рынок нас догонит, и мы все равно должны будем приспосабливаться. И здесь не нужно думать, а в какой момент это делать, совместно с какими программами это делать. Это придется нам делать, поэтому надо об этом понимать. И система вот стратегического планирования, наработанная система планирования устойчивого развития, она нам помогает. Здесь не надо, сегодня тоже говорилось об этом, не надо изобретать велосипед, здесь надо использовать просто вот эти инструментарии и правильно для себя выработать правила и новые планы. Но что же поможет нам, да, допустим, то, что вот слова Катулас, то, что считалось несбыточным, вот оно уже сейчас, сегодня перед нами. 25 лет назад Казахстан и не мог даже подумать, что мы можем напрямую торговать с Китаем, например. Мы были маленькой частью, сырьевым придатком огромной большой империи. Все, что у нас производилось, все забиралось в центр и торговалось уже от имени Советского Союза. Мало того, на границе с Китаем в Казахстане стояли эшелонированные военные части. Тогда Советский Союз и с Китаем на грани находились постоянных конфликтов, и стояли закопанные по башне танки, стояли в бункерах самолеты. И, конечно, мы тогда даже и мечтать не могли о том, что мы можем торговать. Сегодня мы уже нарастили объем торговли с 0 до 30 миллиардов долларов. Вот это возможности. Раньше мы подшучивали, что Китай, если китайцы начнут кушать не палочками, а ложками, это будет гуманитарная катастрофа для всего мира, да? Так вот это уже не фантастика, это уже реальность. И это большие возможности для Казахстана. Реально большие возможности для Казахстана. И мы 10-5 лет назад, когда работали по рейтингам Doing Business, конкурентоспособности Всемирного экономического форума. Например, по международной торговле мы всегда находились где-то в конце. 125 место, сначала 134 какое-то место. Да? И анализировали, почему так, а потому что нам по методологии объясняли, что вы живете в районе пупа земли, и чтобы вам довести свои товары до ближайшего морского порта, это, естественно, издержки самые большие у Казахстана, и поэтому вы будете, хотите, не хотите, на таких местах по международной торговле, в рейтингах. Да? Но нам удалось поработать в этих рейтингах, и мы объясняли, что для нас на самом деле океан – это вот рядом, граница с Китаем – это Тихий океан, граница с Россией – это Северное море, вот они наши порты. И нам не надо покупать корабли и плавать, бороздить по этим океанам, но достаточно довести наши продукты до вот этих границ. Поэтому наша политика Казахстана по открытию границ, по содействию торговле, по интеграции экономической, вот идеи президента Казахстана по евразийской экономической интеграции, они уже дают свои плоды, это большие возможности. То есть, конечно же, с точки зрения, что мы были сильно привязаны к нефти, к углю и к другим старым ресурсам и технологиям, это большие вызовы для нас. Но вот возможности, я говорил сегодня, мы с 2009 года потеряли с 30 до 16% налоги к ВВП, да, из-за того, что пытались включить режим более благоприятный для несырьевой экономики, но, к сожалению, за все эти годы и сырьевая экономика сдулась, не дает нам столько уже налогов, и несырьевая экономика не развилась. Вот те трудности, которые пришли, не использованы, надо из этого делать урок, и сейчас новые трудности, и Китай находится в изменении, приспособлении к новым климатическим условиям, и весь мир, и мы должны использовать эти возможности, и таким образом добирать в бюджете те доходы, которые мы теряем при уходе от энергетической экономики. Спасибо.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. It's very interesting to see your view. There's no option to look backwards. We really need to look forward on this. I'm just checking with my staff. Do we have 10 minutes? No, we have to close. Well, I think it was a very good moment to close, and your words were very useful for me. I would say I don't want to summarize, but I just want to signal how this work is just starting. We want to present some results later in the year. We'll find an opportunity to present them together with the Ministry of Finance, more concrete, practical results on Kazakhstan, but also we are open to do pilots in other of our countries of operation. We are thinking about it with some of our government stakeholders in other countries. I think it's an important piece of work. We've talked and discussed this at length with the IMF in Washington. They've been very helpful on developing this methodology. I think they also understand that there's no looking backwards, and if you want to look forward, you have to look forward with your eyes well opened for the risks and, as the Minister emphasized, the opportunities from the point of view of economic growth, of integration, but also of fiscal sustainability. So let me close here. Thank very much His Excellency for coming today and for his very inspiring words. Thank every and each of the panelists that participated to it, but also thank my team, Isabel Blanco, Russell Bishop, that have been instrumental to this work, and of course the team in the Ministry of Finance as well that's been instrumental to this work. So please come and ask us questions about this. We'll be happy to give you some more answers, and see you next time we present you some more results. Thank you very much. Lovely presentation.